Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Ohio Neck and Back Pain Relief Center, Scott M. Grade D.C., across from the Marion Center between PSC and Kroger. For further information, dial 740-386-6580. Also located on the net at goodbackbadback.com. That's goodbackbadback.com.
Hey, Scott Spears along with you on the Friday edition of The Exchange, joined by Charlie Evers, Marianne Michaels, Martha Dousman-Acey, Shannon O'Neill, and Ohio State football legend John Hicks. Great group, and we're going to have a great Friday episode for you today. Going to start with the answer to yesterday's quiz question. What was the name of the ship that was supposed to accompany the Mayflower on its historic journey across the Atlantic in 1620? It was the Speedwell. It was left behind in Plymouth, England when it started taking on water. There you go, the Speedwell. Charlie, let's go with fascinating facts today. I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about.
Okay, I showed some of my shirts.
Sure, yes.
Do you care if I show another
shirt?
Show
some more shirts, Charlie.
Grab
out of the
there.
closet.
All right, here we go. Boy,
here we go.
This is one with no sleeves.
Whoa.
and it's for Buckeye Chuck. This shirt was issued in the middle of winter.
February.
Buckeye Chuck. There it is.
February.
Yeah, February. Middle of winter. Oh. But I wanted to mention, too, one of my favorite things with the Popcorn Festival is the Popcorn 100 Bike Tour. It's not a race. It's a tour of Marion County. And I participate in that every year. I'm the SAG wagon. I pick up those who are disposed of. Either they get too tired, their bikes break down, or something else happens. They have their wife calls them, tells them to get home or something. I pick them up and haul them back in. It's a lot of fun. But we usually have 300 or 400 people on that tour, young and old alike. And Popcorn 100, if you want to join in on that, just call the hospital and tell them it's about the bike tour.
What were they thinking, giving you a tank top in February? They wanted to get rid of you.
I think so.
Would have been the last Buckeye Chuck. Do you have a pick of the week, Charlie?
A pick of the week?
Yeah.
No.
No. Well, nothing going on this week.
Well, other than
a flat answer.
Other than those crazy Plavix. Hey, I'm pretty good today. I don't have as many marks from my Plavix medicine. I wonder how many people out there take Plavix or don't. I would like to know, once and for all, if you have to take Plavix the rest of your life and have all these terrible marks on your arms, or if there's a substitute that they're not telling us.
Ooh, that's good. My goodness. Marianne, words of wisdom.
Well, this is by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and he says that happiness lies in the joy of achievement and the thrill of creative effort. And I think that's a good one.
That's a good one. I like anything that Franklin Roosevelt said. He said a lot of great things. We are going to go into the current event bag today because we haven't done that all week, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about going on right here in Marion, if you believe that. How about this? A Marion teacher was among 2 people arrested after Gallion police and Crawford County Sheriff's deputies searched her residence, we'll say that. Laura Saylor Barnard, and this was published in the Marion Star, 35 years old, and Christopher Goodwin, 26 years old, were arrested after a raid at 100 Mansfield Street in Gallion. Barnard, who's also referred to as Saylor, is a teacher at Grant Middle School in Marion. Authorities confiscated marijuana, drug paraphernalia, prescription medication, and cash. Barnard was transported to Crawford County Justice Center and is being held at this time, this may change by the time we air, on felony warrants for trafficking in drugs. She is a special education teacher at Grant Middle School. Marion City School Superintendent James Barney said administrators had been notified. We're clearly caught off guard by this, Barney said, adding administrators are deeply disappointed. The next step is following the right procedures and handling this situation. Barney said he believes students cannot be in her, and this is his quote, care, custody, or control. And just an update I read right before we went on the air that she has pleaded not guilty. So, there you go. Mary Ann, what do you think?
Oh, I didn't hear that or see that, and I feel really bad about that. I substituted at Grant after I retired from teaching, and I don't know these people. I don't know these people at all, but that's sad to hear. That's all I can say. It's a sad situation. But she pleaded not guilty?
Not guilty, she pleaded.
Maybe she's not guilty. Who knows?
Hard to tell.
Yeah.
Shannon, what do you think about that?
I've always felt that when people get into trouble with drugs, I think the first initial reaction is to, well, throw them in jail, make them serve their time. But I feel like if someone's involved in drugs, they need help. And so instead of the whole community looking down upon this individual, I think maybe the community could rally together and help that person and do something positive, make something positive out of this.
John, what do you think about this story like this?
Well, she might be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, you know.
That's exactly what I thought when I read this. I thought, boy, you know, I don't know that it's her residence and nobody does. Charlie, what do you think of this?
It's hard to pass an opinion since she's pleaded no guilty and it's not come to trial yet or anything like that. But naturally, you wouldn't want, if she is guilty, you wouldn't want someone like that teaching your kids. But like Shannon said, these people need help. Our jails are jammed full of drug users and pushers and whatever, and it's costing us at least $48 a day to house one prisoner.
Well, let's talk about this, because this is why I think this is a story, because I'm sure, I mean, I've seen the logs, people get in trouble for trafficking and things of that nature a lot, and it doesn't make the paper in a big story. This has made the paper because it's a teacher. That's what it's all about. Now, that being said, Mary Ann, as a former teacher, should, just because you're a teacher, you have yourself raked across the headlines when somebody else wouldn't, who didn't hold a position like that?
Yes, it seems unfair to me, but I'm not sure if other suspects aren't treated the same. I wouldn't have that knowledge. But you're saying that you don't think other people...
Everybody who's arrested for trafficking is not put in the paper like this. No, there's no way.
Well, I think, yes, then it's sad.
What do you think about that, Shannon? Just the way they've handled her because she is an educator.
I think the fact is that when you are in a position like that, your behavior needs to be beyond reproach. I just don't think there's any way around that. I mean, look at politicians. The things that they say are scrutinized all the time, but they need to be careful simply because they are elected officials, and their behavior needs to reflect that as well.
Okay, John, I saw you nodding your head yes on that. Okay, where do we draw the line? Who goes in the paper for trafficking and who doesn't?
When you become a public figure, you have a certain responsibility. Regardless if you are an athlete or a teacher, a politician, or a minister. You have a certain responsibility that comes with the territory, and you accept it.
John, do you think a middle school teacher in Marion, Ohio, feels that they're in a job that's in the public eye? I'm not saying do we view it as that, but do they think that? Do you think?
I mean, they should, because they have a responsibility. Their actions and leadership and affects young people. You know, you're trusted with you're really trusted with our youth and the direction. And you know, I always found that the greatest people in my life were my teachers and my coaches. I mean, they weren't perfect, they weren't God, but what they represented, I was able to grasp from it.
Martha, what do you hear think when you hear a story like this?
Oh, it's so sad to hear this. I read about it in the paper, and I thought to myself, what are these people going to do? It's just terrible to have teachers doing this. We expect our teachers to be perfect, and that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that this is going to all come about and that we won't have to worry about it anymore.
I think you're right, Martha. I think you're absolutely right. Charlie, again, does a teacher have to expect to be in the public eye?
Oh, yes, definitely. She's paid with public money, public tax money too. So yes, a teacher, rather than just somebody off the street, there's quite a bit of difference there. A teacher is a public figure, period.
Okay, when you take a position then as a teacher, do you ever have a private life? Or are you on the clock until you retire?
That's a good question. We've come across that before, like, can a teacher actually go to a bar and drink?
Yes.
Okay, when you're a teacher, you've got to set an example, whether you want, whether that's in your line of duty or not. You've got to be a person that is respected and that you act respectfully.
24 hours a day?
Yes, indeed.
I don't know, Shannon, what do you think?
I think it comes with the territory. It is what it is. When you are constantly interacting with the public, whether it be children or other adults, it's a teacher, it's like you're the face of the organization, you're the face of the school, you are who the public is constantly interacting with. Your actions have to be aligned with that.
Right, but don't most people, in general, I guess if your job isn't in the public eye, and I would hasten to bet, if you went, because this happened in Marion County, if you went to every school and asked them if they thought of themselves as public figures, I think the majority would say no. They don't think of themselves as any type of celebrity politician, only in the paper when they do something bad, never when they do something good.
I know.
That's the sad thing about it. But what I'm saying is, so when you're a teacher, the summer's off, the holiday's off, you're always on the clock. Never, never, never do anything. What if you went into a bar? Again, we've discussed it. John, if a teacher goes into a bar off the clock and a student walks by as they're coming out, is that inappropriate?
Yes.
Why?
You don't, as a teacher, although, I know, I'm an athlete. And there's certain things I can't do. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be in the paper for drugs. I'm not gonna be in the paper for drunken and disoriented. I was fortunate to win some national awards, but that also had a responsibility. Like I said, a lot of teachers go out and have social lives and act responsible. But it used to be, you go in a town like a Marion, and the football coach and the minister was the most respected people in town. The football coach was busy molding young people, and notwithstanding not the football players, but also the cheerleaders and the fans. And the minister had enough, where he would be, and you could reach out for comfort and faith. And I think we need to get back to that. There's a 24/7 media, and there's a constant pounding of negativity. You got to act like this. And when you see, I get upset when I watch the guys in the league, and they're really trying to correct it now, where they used to showboat and take their helmet off.
I don't like that either.
Well, the league's finding the guys. You can't do that anymore, because they don't want young kids acting that way. It's one thing, I was very fortunate. I grew up in Cleveland, and at that time, all the Browns lived in the neighborhood. All of them. Jim Brown, we saw them all. Dick Shaffrath, Ross Feetner. I mean, I know these guys since I was 5 and 6 years old. And it's great to be friends with them today, but more importantly was what the role model they gave for me.
Marianne, as again teaching in the Marion City School District for as long as you did, off the clock, did you always feel like you were on the clock?
No, I really didn't. No, absolutely not. I never felt that way. But I do think you have to set a good example for the young people. But I don't think you have to be a saint. I mean, you know, let's face it, nobody's a saint. You know, going into a bar that is not located near a school or not located where young people are, I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, I didn't do that myself. I mean, I didn't. But, you know, I don't think teachers should be criticized for having some kind of a life outside of the classroom. As long as it doesn't, you know, put a bad image on that person or on the school system.
Let's talk about this then. This lady at this particular juncture has pleaded not guilty, this teacher. Now, for the superintendent of the Marion City Schools to come out and say, this is his quote, he does not believe students can be in her care, custody, or control. And she has pleaded not guilty. He's already made that statement.
Well, in a way, that's wrong, because he's already, you know...
Convicted.
Yeah, convicted without even, you know, being... But, you know, he has to be very careful, because there will be people that will criticize him if something isn't said similar to that. But maybe he could have toned that down a little bit and said it in a little different way. Because he's saying that she's guilty even though she says she isn't, and it hasn't been a trial yet. So, but you know, he has a responsibility to the community, so I can see why he might say that.
Charlie, when we look at this, all the people, there's a great many group of people who want to legalize marijuana. Now, what this teacher has done, from what I see, it says cash prescription medication, so sometimes you can get by with that. Drug paraphernalia that was apparent. The only drug named here is marijuana. For all of the people who want to legalize marijuana, if marijuana was legal, should a school have a problem with this?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I have no answer for that.
Shannon, if marijuana was legal, because as we have it now, it's not as mind-altering as alcohol, is what people say. I have no idea, to tell you the truth. But if it's legal, should it be allowed?
So long as their recreational use isn't interfering with their ability to do their job, then that's their business.
But earlier on, you said, don't go into a bar. Drinking's legal if you're a certain age in Ohio.
That's very true. I like what Marianne said about, you know, teachers do have lives outside of school, and as they should. A good friend of mine in the Lima area is a guidance counselor. She's 25 years old. Obviously, she still wants to be social, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, but, you know, marijuana, that's a touchy issue. I mean, even medicinal marijuana is argued about quite a bit, and I personally don't think it should be legalized, but should it be legalized as long as the usage isn't interfering with their job? What can you do?
John, two big beach ball questions there I wanted to talk to you about. What do you think should be said of the superintendent who has already said he believes students should not be in her care, custody, or control?
I think, well, I looked at it two ways. He may have known something in her employee file that we didn't know. But if this was really the first time, I would think that was a very callous remark, and that the union would have a lot to say. So I was waiting for the response from the teachers union, because generally if they hadn't had a real problem before, they would certainly come out in her behalf until proven guilty. So it was a double-edged sword. With that being said, I don't believe that marijuana should be legalized.
Well, maybe that teacher should, or maybe the superintendent should have said that this teacher should not be in the classroom until it was designated, designated whether she was guilty or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what he should have said, like, you know, she should be off the job temporarily until this whole thing is settled. That's...
Well, now here's something, and as odd as it sounds, as strange as it sounds, this could be the truth. If you live in Las Vegas, Nevada, if you're a teacher in Las Vegas, Nevada, prostitution is legal there. What if you're a prostitute off the clock?
Oh, no, that's a whole...
No, now wait a second, Marianne, now wait a second. Now, if marijuana is legal and you are off the clock, fine. If alcohol is legal and it wrecks up your brain awful bad and you were off the clock, you said that was okay. Prostitution in Las Vegas is legal. Why is that wrong?
Well, it's wrong for me. I mean, I guess my mindset is such that that would be very wrong.
How is it legal? Is that only considered legal in bordellos?
Well, you can accept money.
I mean, you don't
basically.
find women walking down the street engaging men in Las Vegas legally.
It's controlled.
Yeah, it's controlled, of course, but it is legal. So if you do that in your private life, prostitution, you're not on the street soliciting, but you do it, is that okay?
Well, common sense would tell you that.
But
common sense rules the roost.
does it?
Yes, it does.
Does it for that teacher who went on and said all the nasty things on the internet? I don't know. John, what do you think?
I think that there is a moral turpitude to this position. And, you know, prostitution, drugs, shouldn't be in our classroom, regardless of who has legalized, I mean, how liberal laws are in location. I mean, gambling is legal in Las Vegas, but do you want high school kids and middle schools gambling? No. I mean, they got a 21-year-old age restriction that you can't go to casinos until you're 21 years old. So therefore, it should be regulated. You know, I'm not a libertarian about rights. There are certain things you just don't do.
Well, John, I wasn't implying that the prostitution go on in school. I'm saying if off the clock at 5 o'clock in the evening, if that's what you do as your second job, and you don't take it into the school, is that wrong?
Yes.
So, but what if, again, the child, when he's 21, he can gamble. Now, don't bring gambling into the school, as you said, but could a teacher gamble off the clock?
There's teachers that do gamble.
Right, of course there are.
I mean, they gamble, they go to bars, they live like other people.
I don't know. I think it comes back to that whole, you know, if the majority of the town, because everything is put up to a vote, if the majority of the town says prostitution, marijuana, alcohol, whatever, gambling is legal, then you know what? You've made your bet now. You know what's legal and what's illegal. Am I wrong on this, Marianne?
Yeah, but that doesn't sound like a very nice community as far as I'm concerned.
Well, don't move there. Don't move there. Don't take your kids there, I guess would be the answer. Going to dive into the quizzer question this week. What article of clothing were women required to wear at the beach at New Jersey's Atlantic City until 1907, along with their standard attire of long bathing dresses, bathing shoes, and straw hats?
Probably bloomers.
Bloomers?
Sounds
Marianne?
about right.
Martha, any idea?
No, I don't have any idea.
John, any idea?
Boomers.
Bloomers?
I'll go with
Shannon?
bloomers too.
You know what? How much time do we have left? 1 minute? Okay. And I'm going to bring something up here. And it just struck me as soon as I read that question. Okay. Dressing provocatively. Common sense would have told a teacher not to dress provocatively in the 1970s. Two-piece bathing. I've been in schools with things hanging out. The dress code has changed.
Oh, it
People
has
do this.
changed.
Now, Charlie, what is the difference? 20 years from now, we're going to be talking about it the same way. What happened to the old ladies with the hose up to their knees. They're all gone. They've been replaced by these women pulling out their shirts.
That's right. Our moral attitudes certainly do change over the years. But as we look back, President Harding probably started the flapper era. Women started smoking, wore shorter skirts, and look what's happened since.
We just spiraled. John, I want to ask you one question before we get out of here today. I meant to ask you earlier on in the week. When we talked about you felt that Tressel shouldn't have been handled the way it was handled, shouldn't have left. Woody Hayes obviously met not a similar fate, but met a fate where he didn't get to choose to leave. Should he have been let go after hitting the player?
But he admitted to us that he stayed 2 years too long. You know, he had a couple chances to get out. Archie's senior year and the year after that. And, you know, at some point you lose your edge. You know, he couldn't work as hard as he wanted to. He was forgetting things, and you know. And he was just a tough competitor. You know, he knew it. He told us he stayed 2 years too long.
But John, it's been a pleasure to have you here this week. Very great insight. And remember, we have fan tape. It is great. Scott Spears will be back next week with the group, the Exchange Marion on Facebook, irmcommunications@gmail.com. See you then.